Okay, and now I have the mystery box of questions.
Hi, everybody. When we start?
We just started. Oh, we got to do this. We got to go. That syncs up the audio.
Woo!
We both look pretty? We both look pretty? Okay. All right. Well, welcome to day 2 of Quilt Market, Kansas City. Michael Miller Fabrics, making it fun. I need oxygen. Wow, that was a big mouthful. This will be a super special interview. We're in here a little early before market gets started with a dear special friend of mine, Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. So glad to be here.
Oh, you're supposed to keep talking so I can get my breath in.
Oh, okay. I just have to say I'm so glad that we're here in Kansas City. It has been 6 years since we've been in Kansas City. Do you remember that?
I do, because I think it was raining like crazy.
It was crazy, and I think it's actually going to have a huge storm today too. So
I know the clouds are picking up out there. I went out to get a little photography this morning as well.
We're here, and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I should not have gone running over here after drinking coffee, because like literally my heart's now pounding through my chest. Of course, it's always the excitement, you know, of being at Quilt Market.
Yeah.
You said 6 years ago we were here together, but when was your very first Quilt Market?
It was right before then. It was Salt Lake City 2012. I don't really remember the dates. It was something a long time ago. Children at Play was my first collection.
Right.
And Kansas City was Out to Sea. Do you remember that? The nautical one?
I do. And your husband came for both of the first.
Yes.
But now you're in Salt Lake City or somewhere close.
Yes,
Right.
I'm just right outside of Salt Lake City.
And I forget, I should leave the microphone on you because I'm so loud.
I know.
Can hear me over there. Okay, well, I want to talk a lot about Lola Dutch. You know, the folks who were yesterday following us on social media were very impressed with my buddy Mike. Was very impressed with Lola Dutch, as you all know. Yes. But before that, let's just back up. We've got the time. You know, I just want to hear what the life of Sarah Jane, both the mom and wife, but also the illustrator, is really all about. So tell me everything you're willing to share.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll just start from the very beginning. I'm an illustrator at heart. So I design fabric, and that is a huge part of what I do, but I illustrate children's books as well. And so as an illustrator, it just made so much sense to really, well, my husband, I should back up a little bit more. My husband's a school teacher. He's been teaching middle school for 17 years, and he's also a writer. And so we decided to team up and write and illustrate children's books together. I've always illustrated other people's children's books. We thought, you know what, we have a great idea for a story. Let's really make it happen. And I don't know if you know anything about books, but you know, you don't do a book because you just feel like it on the fly. Like, it's a lot of work, and we put a lot of work into it, and we had this really fun idea about a girl named Lola who is bursting with creativity, who loves to read, is inspired by myself as a child, my husband as a child. We were just like always into something, always had our hands on something, always busy, and we have 4 children, and they're exactly the same way. And as we would parent our young children, we would end the day and we'd go, oh my gosh, this is just so much. Raising creative children is like a lot. Raising children is a lot, but raising creative children is a lot. And
I'm gonna jump in. I'm jumping in for a question. So now, so is Lola a combination of like all of your kids put into one? And yourself as a young lady?
Yes. So I would say Lola is me, Lola is my husband, Lola is my oldest child, Lola is most of my children to an extent. And you know, right now we have a 5-year-old, and our 5-year-old will wake up in the morning and say, Mom, I just can't wait to make, you know, a sculpture of the Buddhist temple I learned about from my China studies in preschool. At 6 o'clock in the morning, like, our kids are just always creative, and it's something that we foster in our home.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
We have books in our home. We are reading constantly. Like, our house is not like, if we were to say we had clutter in our house, we have a clutter of books. Like, there are always books out. And so we wanted to write a story about a little girl. I'll just put it up in the screen. Lola Dutch loves to read books, and she's obsessed with whatever she's learning about. And so this book series, the first one, she goes to the library and she learns about art history, and she learns about Matisse, and she learns about, her friends learn about chemistry, and her friends learn about, and she gets excited. And so what she ends up doing is probably hard to see in the screen.
Yeah, we can try to zoom in.
She ends up having this huge mess in her house full of masterpieces, and the second she can't decide what she wants to be when she grows up. And it's this huge dilemma because, of course, everything is always urgent with Lola. Everything's always urgent with kids, right? I mean, nothing's ever...
No, wait a second. Wait a second. That's not fair. Give me this thing back here. I've always been told, my friend Alex Anderson, I let her have the microphone a couple days ago, and she says, don't ever give your guest the microphone. But see, I saw how beautifully you did that, and so I was like, oh, just give her the mic and let her go. Because you answered every question I was about to ask. But Oh no, now I forgot what I was going to say.
Urgent.
Everything's urgent, but I don't think it's with kids. I think it's with creatives.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to say, because for me, everything's urgent for me.
I'll add. See, here we are getting all urgent.
Oh no.
But here's the thing. Kids are creative. That's the thing. So our job as author illustrator with this picture book series was to say, kids are curious, kids are creative. Let's keep it that way, because what happens around 8 or 9 is we start being self-conscious, right? Around 8, 9, 10 years old, we start thinking, oh, well, what is so-and-so doing? Or, what does so-and-so think of me? Or sometimes it's just, wow, screens are more exciting. And so our kind of hope with Lola Dutch is that we would foster creativity in kids enough for them to realize this is fun, this is exciting, and ultimately, we're watching our kids grow up. My husband's watching his students grow up. Those kids who are staying curious and staying creative are the innovators, are the leaders, are the ones making things happen.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect. May I assume that Lola Dutch will not get hooked on video games?
I don't think so.
Yes. May I also assume that's kind of part of your parenting style?
Yes, it's very much part of our parenting style. So the third book comes out next year. As a way to kind of twist it, creativity isn't just for the arts. Creativity, we believe, I think you would think as well, it takes creativity to have relationships. It takes creativity to think of other people. So the third book is Lola Dutch, I Love You So Much. The idea is that all of her friends, which are Gator, Crane, and Pig, and Bear, are grumpy, and she has to creatively come up with a way to cheer up her friends. And so each one of her friends has a different issue, and she has to say, oh, well, Bear's cold and he's shivering. I got to make footy pajamas, or Pig is feeling left out. Let's take him to the park.
Do we need to put a spoiler alert up real quick before you give away all of the...
Well, here's the thing. The third book you can actually pre-order right now. So go ahead and pre-order it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon or wherever it is.
Your website as well?
It has a link. Yeah, it has a link. LolaDutch.com or SarahJaneStudios.com. You can get Lola Dutch anywhere books are sold.
Oh, yeah. Tell us more about that, because she's an international superstar,
yeah, right? So you can buy Lola Dutch. It's printed in the United States as well as Australia and the United Kingdom. And there's also foreign rights that are starting to happen. I know Russia will be happening pretty soon. And so you can get it anywhere. So anyway, with that idea, creativity takes courage. That's kind of a motto. We quoted it from our favorite artist in the book. And the whole idea is that it takes courage to be a kid in this world, and creativity is part of that.
Wow, you've been preparing for this. Or when it's your story, when it's something that is so exciting for you, like it just comes out naturally and so beautifully stated. For me, that's the thing I love about Market, is getting to talk with everybody and see and hear about those little trigger points that started that seed of creativity. And you've mentioned your husband a couple times, but he is very into theater. Oh, yeah, he is totally incredibly creative. I have seen the two of you assemble.
He's a lot like you. You're both a Renaissance man.
Well, I wasn't. Thank you. I wasn't digging for compliments, but I certainly appreciate that. Yeah, but I've watched you guys put together one amazing booth after another, and it's just really cool to see a family that works together, and so encouraging to hear about it inside and outside of the home. It's not just a part of the reality TV of it. It's working.
Totally, yeah, it's a family affair. I mean, our kids are constantly saying, hey, put this into the book, or hey, put that into the book, and whether we do or not is irrelevant. It's the fact that we're listening and that we're collaborating with them, and they inspire us. Pig, for instance, even just, you can see Pig right there. We should give him the mic, right?
Okay. Pig, what do you got to say?
Even his posture and the way he walks is my 5-year-old. Like, he was very much inspired by the way my 5-year-old, at then 3-year-old, would bounce around the house, and his physique is very much inspired by that. And
so was it the movement of the 3-year-old then that you said, oh, that would be a pig? If I was out in the farmyard, like, who would this little child be?
I'll tell you how it started. So these characters, actually, because I'm an artist, I actually just drew these characters. I sell art prints on my shop, and I drew this little girl who was in the center of a ring of friends, and it was a bear, gator, pig, and crane. And ultimately, as an artist, it was just kind of a whimsical drawing and doodle that I made. And I thought, what if this girl with a big personality had these imaginary friends? What would they look like? And it was really just artistic, meaning like I need a big fuzzy, I need a tall skinny, I need a short, and it was just one of those things that kind of came intuitively. And my husband, being the writer, said, there's a story there. We should do there's a story there. And so these characters actually existed a good 4 years before the story. I had artwork, I had prints, I had jewelry even. I mean, I had parts of their story that hadn't existed yet, and then it came into a book. But when you say where was the pig part inspired, ultimately the pig was there, but in terms of how to animate him. I don't animate, but in a book, you're ultimately, it's almost like a movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're turning the page and it's
Yeah.
very active. The way that Pig moves is my 5-year-old. So anyway.
Okay, so now, as you're breaking this down, I'm thinking the quilting world.
Right.
You know, when we teach quilting, depending on what kind of quilting you want to take, you know, whether it's a patchwork or an applique or whatnot, we're still talking about color value,
Yes.
positive, negative space, these things. You just broke down emotion, but strategically based on art as well. You're tall, skinny, you're soft, fuzzy. So what a fun thing for you to get to use that
love
school
this
set.
analogy, yes.
Yeah, like and you know, Ricky Timms talks about how making a quilt is like making a composition of music. So you just gave maybe an author who understands writing structure a great way to maybe look at their first quilt.
Yes.
Maybe if they're thinking, I want to make a quilt, I could write an amazing book, but I couldn't make a quilt.
Yes.
Well, beginning, middle, end,
Yes.
something like that. Structure. But that was so neat. As you heard that, I just got goosebumps because you're talking about the beauty in it, but you also mentioned the strategy of positive, negative space,
Yes.
those kinds of things, and that must just. No wonder you're so dang excited all the time.
Well, I think that's such a great way to say it because I actually come from the theater world, but I also come from the music world and the art world and the sewing world. And it's all choreography and it's all story. And so when you think about it, like, so the fabric line is an example. I'll talk about the way when I'm designing my books, I'm thinking about white space. I'm thinking about negative space.
Because you have the collection in mind? Because you have
Well,
the technical side
because
of fabric.
here's the thing. In a story, you have to think composition, and quilting is a story.
Yes,
A
it
book
is.
is a story, obviously.
Yes, it is.
But so as an example, let's
Yeah,
open up some
yeah,
pages
yeah.
and maybe we can show
Here,
really
I'll
quick.
hold the mic.
Okay.
I got it back.
Let's talk about story and quilting. This
Okay.
is actually, let's talk. We should do another episode on this because
All
I think
right.
this is actually a really, really great way. So let's just talk about this for a second. Lola is so when I want to Lola is messy and creative ideas. I'm going to do a illustration like this, where it's just full of so much information and color is everywhere. But then later in the story, at the climax, she's frustrated and she doesn't know what to do, and everything is at stake. I have all of this white space. Is it showing?
All but perfect. There you go.
I'm just having Lola in the spotlight with white space because I want all the attention to be right there. And it's interesting because when you're doing a quilt, exactly, you need to have your eye move. You need to have a story. It doesn't have to be a narrative, but you're talking about heaviness and lightness, contrast, right? You're talking about spatial.
Bob, everybody.
Now open for the day. We are open for the day.
Woohoo! We're getting started.
The voice of Quilt Market, Bob from the sky, everyone.
Wizard of Oz. But I think that's really important because as a storyteller, I'm also, so let's transition to fabric real quick.
Yeah.
Then I go from illustrating a book, which is a whole niche skill set, but into designing a fabric collection, I'm thinking of things, Rob. I'm thinking about scale and when does Lola need to be big, or when do the characters need to be small, or when do we need to have white space here and density here, and those components for building a quilt or building a fabric collection the same in terms of where do we need drama, where do we need quiet, and those are things that I'm thinking about when I'm building the collection.
So when I was looking through the release, I guess it was April release, we started showing Lola Dutch. You know, I basically try to do it instinctually. So I have the cameras rolling. I'm just talking as I'm thumbing through it. I want everyone to hear my gut reaction. And as I looked at Lola Dutch at first, it was the first clip I put on the April release video, so you can actually see that there as well.
Great.
I was taken by it, but as I got deeper into it, and what you said at Schoolhouse was really fun for me, because the print you did of the library, it took me a minute to catch it. And when I caught it, I saw all the creativity and depth in it. So I can grab it quick here, can't I?
Just grab
Sorry.
it right there.
Here, I'm going to ask you to hold that because the library print down here, and I'll make sure we get a good picture of this, and it is. So the library print is wonderful running yardage of these books and books, just single line kind of like books on the shelf, but Lola's on a ladder every, would you say, 24-inch? 27-inch, something like
I
that?
think it's a little bit more than I think it might be. I need to measure and get my numbers right. I think it's closer to 30. It's about every 2/3 of a yard.
Yeah, it was like she's just here and again, but it made the fabric usable in so many ways and so entertaining, and it just made me think, this is not just slapped together. This is a very intentional print.
Yes, and that was something that I I feel like whenever I design a collection, I want to be able to give people things that they can use no matter what project they're working on. But if they want an element of surprise, you're always going to get a print of mine with that element of surprise where you don't have to fussy, but if you want to, you can really cut around it. But you can use it, it's functional, and it's not meant to be something that is frustrating. It's meant to be something that excites you as a sewer, where you go, wow, I just got a new idea. I just thought of something that I never thought of before. And for us, for me, Lola Dutch is a property that we're going to be talking about, for a long time with books and other products. But in terms of fabric, I wanted to really inspire the sewer and say, I just got a creative idea. And so the fabric itself is, I hope, something that will inspire creativity in all of us sewers.
Well, it certainly made my heart jump, and I mean that, for real. I saw it and I was like, this is really creative. I call it rubbernecking. You walk by it, and then you're like, whoa, what is that? And it was a really cool experience. So thank you for creating that moment in my life.
Hey, awesome.
Yeah. And we probably better wrap it up pretty quick because it's going to get noisy in here. But before I let you go, I still have to ask you to answer one of the mystery questions.
All right, mystery question.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Might as well take the microphone.
All right, we got the box.
You got the box.
Can you see the box? Yep, we got the box here.
Mystery box of questions, and now I'll take the mic back because I'm going to make you pull any random question.
I'm going to close my eyes because that really makes all the difference. And
Absolutely.
My question is, my favorite swear word and why?
Now, Mom, the kids are going to be watching from home.
Okay, I got to be careful. Oh, this is a hard one because you know what? I'm not a language person, but I'll tell you this.
Then stop there. Your most creative explicitive that is not really a swear word.
I would have to ask my husband. What would my husband say? Or my kids. I'm going to actually say something that I don't use anymore, but actually this triggered in my mind as we're talking about childhood and kids. There was a phase in 5th grade where when you didn't want to say a swear word, you would say, "Oh, pineapple."
Oh, pineapple.
And in 5th grade, all of my friends, we would say, "Oh, pineapple." I just remember that I had actually forgotten all those years ago. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Because it's not really what you say, but how you say it. Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking to myself, I bet she doesn't need to curse. She has a tone. Yeah. And that tone says, Mom's mad. I better behave myself right now, because I've been a little too creative.
So, yeah, anyway, maybe that's not answering the question. But here's the thing. I feel like as in this conversation, it makes you kind of think back to your childhood. And I love Lola in that she kind of asks us those questions like, where was I when I was that age? And what was I thinking about? And that's what I was thinking about is how to creatively get around saying what you want to say. Anyway, it's a fun question.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we all enjoy a little bit of a trip back to our childhood with Lola Dutch and Miss Sarah Jane at Michael Miller Fabrics. Sarah, thanks for being a fantastic guest here on my silly little show.
Here's Lola.
Yay, Lola Dutch.